Hi, this is Shawn Abrams with Leading in the First Person. Today's topic, set up for conflict, step up to resolution. Be right back. Alright, we're back. So this portion of the video is where I normally do updates. No more updates. Instead, I'm changing this part of the video to situational awareness. So the updates for this video series have been retired. Now, I'll use situational awareness just about every day with my team. I'll do this in the form of an email I send out first thing in the morning. What I do is I want to update them on our efforts with relation to our goals. I want to send gentle reminders about important stuff we should be doing. I want to send metrics. I want to let them know who's out of the office. I want to give them feedback. I want to talk about best practices from the previous day or even not so best practices. And whenever I can, I throw in some humor too. All right, now, from the leader's standpoint, situational awareness is a collection of information. We're looking at variables around us to help figure out what could happen next. How possible or plausible is our desired outcome? And the difference between these two words is this. Possible means anything is possible. And it usually is. Plausible means you have to scientifically prove that something is possible. Now, situational awareness will change from team to team, and it may even change significantly by team activity. It could also contain, but not be limited to, the information I outlined previously. Now, you may throw in some advice and some precautions as well. It's all situational or case specific. But here's an example. If you are a runner, your situational awareness report may contain things like weather, track conditions, competitors, altitude. You get it, right? Now, finally, it can also function as a to-do list because there may be actionable items there or deliverables that you need to be concerned with. Okay, so now that we're done with my much explaining, let's conduct our first ever situational awareness report. Item, ghosting your job. Yeah, people are leaving their jobs without notifying their employers. This is a thing. It's affecting companies to the point where many social media sites are receiving posts and searches on a subject. Let me say this. When you leave your job, you should give notice. At least 2 weeks notice. And you can't resign the same day. That's quitting. At some companies, you may not be able to be rehired if you quit. I also say this. Don't burn a bridge that you may want to cross again. We'll cover this in the next video or maybe two. Item. Video 4 is doing well after a rough start. It's now at 1,800 views on YouTube, and it has already surpassed video number 2. No, views are not more important to me than people, but I need to know if my message is getting out and how well it is being received, and that is why your feedback is so important. That's why I ask you to send me feedback at feedback@abrams360media.com. Item, I have a new mission statement. It is to serve, train, motivate, and equip leaders with extraordinary supports to successfully lead their teams and relationships. And you should know that I'm still refining the production of these videos so that they will be received and choreographed as well as a Run Shaw movie. And for those of you that don't know, the Shaw brothers produced some of the best ever Kung Fu movies. One of my favorites is The 36th Chamber of Shaolin. Shoutouts! The RRBC, the Rave Reviews Book Club. We, because I am a part of them, is an international literary community made up of authors and readers. And we are tremendously supportive. If you are a writer or you're thinking about being a writer, you're a book reviewer or thinking about becoming a book reviewer, you should check us out. You can find us at Rave Reviews Book Club. On Twitter, we're using the handle @RRBC_org. As an aside, my friend Galadriel Grace from Grace Notes adds this for our aspiring writers. She says, the only rules you need to worry about are basic punctuation, spelling, and an engaging storyline. Everything else is art and marketing. And you should know that Galadriel did the final edits on my book, and she doesn't know this yet, but I will ask her to do edits on the next. All right. Now, this is the holiday season. I need to share this with you before I get to this story, before I get to today's topic. So I was in line the other day for what seemed like forever and had a lot of time to think. As I'm standing there, something happened that occurs occasionally. Now, the person who was supposed to be standing in line directly behind me was instead standing to the side of me. So much so that they looked like they weren't in line, they looked like they were in sign, S-I-N-E. We looked like two legs of a triangle that was converging on the cashier. And I don't know why, but it did bother me. And I did ask the person, hey, are you standing in line too? And the person smiled and said yes. I said, okay. Well, let's see what happens when the line moves. And it does. And I take a step forward. And they take a step forward. This continued until I was called next. I don't know. There are rules for the line. Well, I live in New York City. New York City is a home of long lines. We have lines for everything. Take the city bus. In Manhattan, the line for the bus could be 20 persons long or deep. And to their credit, Manhattanites will line up one behind another. They are neat. Now, in Brooklyn, where I live, is another story. No one lines up for anything. You can get 17 people converging on an open door. And we're always in a rush, too. New York City is probably the only city in the world where the commuters move faster than the conveyances provided for them. The subway is no different for impatient types. You know, early one morning, I saw a man race ahead of a woman to get to an empty seat on a train. And she was closer to the seat than he was. This was sad because he got off at the next stop and it was only 30 seconds away. I guess he really wanted to get to work, right? But you know, I wonder if his day's work were on that seat, if he would still run to it. He'd probably still sit on it and still get off at the next stop. I don't know. Well, all lines require patience. Take sharpshooters. They have a line of sight to their target. And they have to exercise patience to get their timing and their breathing right. If you were in a heated argument and you wanted to de-escalate it, you would draw a line. Royalty even has a line of succession. Prince Charles of England is probably the most patient person in line history. A creditor will give you a line of credit and patiently and gratefully wait for you to pay it back. People who join fraternities and sororities know what a line is. Well, what about me? I line up these videos for your edification and consumption. And I had to commit to memory some of the lines that I wrote for these videos. I know it takes a lot of patience on my part too. And some lines are not as easy to remember as others. And so I may get worry lines on my face if I don't get it right. Let me get back to the lines. Sometimes I hate waiting in a long line in the store and someone walks up to the front of the line to make a quick purchase. That's not right. You've got to wait your turn. There are rules for the line. It takes a lot of patience to get in line or stay in line. I've seen people sleep on the ground in sleeping bags so they don't lose their place in line waiting to get Jordans or something from a sneaker store. It takes a lot of patience and dedication. But look, if we're going to get in a line, we should adhere to the rules of the line. Be patient. We must govern ourselves accordingly. After all, we don't want to be out of line. But you knew that was coming, right? Okay. Before we get to our topic, you should know that these videos are an extension of the book Leading in the First Person. The book is on sale at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Smashwords, Apple Books, and other fine retailers. All right, let's get to our topic. Set up for conflict, step up to resolution. Recall when I shared a situation that I had on one of the other videos where I spoke about a negative comment that someone made about one of my posts. I said, leaders don't get into back and forth exchanges via email. It would be better to see the person face to face and have that discussion, as written communication can be misconstrued, misunderstood. Well, a similar situation occurred since then, but at the time I failed to discern how similar it was. Here was my post that I posted to a social media site. I said, every morning I ask my son if he's going to have a good day. And his response is, always, yes, Daddy. I then ask why. His response then is, because I want to have a good day. So I wrapped up that post. At the end of the post, I wrote, at the tender age of 7, my son has accepted the fact that he leads his day. Now, listen to this. The post was wildly popular. It received 164 likes, was retweeted 40 times, and now you know that it was on Twitter. And it received 10 comments. One person even said at the rate that my son is going, he'd like to hire him when he becomes of working age because he would be a stellar worker or something to that effect. Now, there was one dissenter. Even though this person liked my comment, she wrote this response, or this question. So what happens when he has a crappy day? Has he failed? Now, I didn't think this was an attack. Again, she indicated that she liked the post. And so I only wanted to provide clarity. So I wrote, no, this is not a test for him, and so he cannot fail. There's only expectation. He may not be able to lead all the events of his day, but he can lead how he reacts to them. So I think engaging crappy situations with a positive attitude just might garner a positive outcome. That was my response. And I thought that was the end of it. Here's her response to my response to her response. It just went on. Anyway, her last response was, "You sound like a self-help book. I hope the child has someone in his life to catch him when he falls. Never being able to grieve a failure is a very sad life." Okay, let's analyze the comment. She said I sound like a self-help book. Well, I wrote a self-help book, and I believe what I wrote. That's the first point. 2, there appears to be a fixation with failing or failure, as she used those words. And the concern, it wasn't relevant, and it was misplaced. In fact, I addressed this. It wasn't about pass or fail. It's just what you think. And after all, what parent wouldn't motivate their child or give them positive reinforcement? That's just a no-brainer. It's an expectation. But to say that she hopes someone else is in my child's life is a slight to me. And I believe it was an attempt to throttle the exchange, to get me to say something else. So there, I was baited. But after her last response, I did not respond. Now, I knew I couldn't lead her in the situation to resolution, but I can lead the situation because I walked away. Right there. A leader needs a measure of emotional intelligence to successfully resolve conflicts. The key here is the leader's ability to understand their emotions and that of others. There's a sensitivity that's needed as well. Know this, every exchange that is not profitable will cost you. Now, I want to add a layer to what I already shared. There are 6 basic emotions that we can experience. They are anger, fear, surprise, disgust, happiness, and sadness. And there are also 6 forms of energy. Emotions can carry energy. You know, technicians can measure our brain activity when we experience different emotions. They can record these responses with sensitive equipment, but what they're recording are the electrical impulses that our brain experiences as we go through these different emotions. So if you're happy, your brain will release hormones into your bloodstream, into your body. Those are chemicals. That is a form of energy. Similarly, if we were sad, you might say that you were low on energy. Well, imagine an exchange where you're upset with someone. It will take some amount of energy to express it, right? And there have been reports of people who have experienced the emotion of fear, and they translated the electrical energy from their brain, their mind, into mechanical energy that they channeled into their legs to propel them away from that danger, that fear. And some others have released their anger energy in a destructive manner. They went atomic. An example of this is road rage. In my situation, the commenter's emotions or energy was of a destructive nature. So exchanging angry energy with her would not change her or make the situation positive or turn her energy into productive energy. A positive outcome just wouldn't happen, and I couldn't profit from it. Let's digress back to childhood for a moment. Remember when we argued with some other child for a turn with a toy? Now, at first, we used facts to make our argument. We might have started, "You had a turn, now it's my turn." Remember how that energy was in play? But then things might have spiraled out of control when someone said something about someone else's mother. Former world heavyweight boxing champion Mike Tyson, Iron Mike Tyson, famously said, "Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face." Let's analyze that. Our brains can generate electrical energy that we can identify as anger, which can be translated into mechanical energy in the form of an arm moving, which can be translated into kinetic energy by virtue of its movement, and that can be translated into chemical energy at the site of impact on a subject's face in the form of bruising. It's not worth it. Now, I don't think diplomacy is the opposite of a fight. No, I think diplomacy is bookends to a fight. I would argue that it's better to end conflict with diplomacy than total defeat of your enemy, because that leaves the door open for them to return on another day. Now let's digress back to my situation with the commenter who resorted to a question, actually resorted to an insult that was posed in the form of a question, which was really bait to an unproductive form of energy from me. What the commenter put on display were a complex set of emotions and energy that a rudimentary approach, for my part, could not neatly address, not in that span of time. This was a case where I knew I could not lead the person, and as I said, I led the situation. Now, another part of my solution was, why can't I just leave things here? Why can't I leave it where we both feel that we are right, even if I think she is wrong? This will leave her intact, not attacked, and still haven't gotten her point across. You see there? Diplomacy. And there was no bargain to be had. Just a no-brainer. So our emotional energy can get us into trouble, but our intellect or intelligence can get us out of it. I strongly urge you to take a look at Dr. Ernest Jones's presentation on emotional intelligence, also called a DEC. In his slide, Putting Emotional Intelligence to Work for Your Team, Dr. Jones says an effective leader must be both aware and in control of emotional health of the team. How many people think that? I do. And I've shared this with my colleagues. I've told my colleagues, we're not only leading people, but we're managing their emotions. We'll talk more about this topic and Dr. Jones's work on an upcoming video. So, if you like this video, please indicate so by clicking on the thumbs up icon below the video. Please share this video within those of your sphere of influence and subscribe to the channel. Until we meet again, plan well, lead well, be well. No, that is not my new sign-off. I'm still Abrams. You're still awesome. Thank you for leading in the first person.